welcome to Pole Currency Talking Money number 8, $5 brownbacks. It's been a minute or two since I've done one of these interview type videos, but I'm here with my friend Ken, who has one of the most specific national banknote collections that I've come across of, and I have no idea that a currency collector could go that deep. I mean, it is amazing, but leave it to a national banknote guy. And Ken's not just a national banknote guy, trust me on that. Ken and we've been talking for over 2 years, Ken, at least.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to say for you that I would consider you my friend. Well, that's your problem, not mine. But back to your collection, the best description I think that we kind of came up with, it's an 1882 $5 national banknote type set by title block layout. And it sounds crazy, folks, but it really, really is interesting, especially when you combine it with the story of the 1882 Brownbacks, which is already a great, great story. So, Ken, first things first, this title block layout thing. I'm going to take out my old $5 Brownback from St. Paul, Minnesota, because I'm a homer and it's my only Brownback that I have. And try to you're going to help me determine that do I know? It's kind of like a pop quiz. Can I determine what the title block layout is? So I'm going to just let me switch my camera here and go to that. And here we are. So the title block is this center area, which I would call the bank block, but the title block layout. And, it's going to say the bank name, Merchants National Bank, which, by the way, was a requirement to include the National Bank, those two words, into your bank name if you were issuing currency through the Treasury Department on the National Banknote Program. Then it would give your city, and then it's got the payment clause, which kind of legally states, what's going to happen, and then it's going to have the denomination. So did I do well? Do I win
You did well. I would say the title block layout is generally the things that are not the actual bank title. So it
Okay,
includes the payment clause,
right here,
the denomination,
here.
and the term National Bank of, because it was common across all the banknotes.
So the National Bank of. So those are the things that we really want to be looking for in the changes of the title block layout.
There's a couple that don't fit, but most of them, that's really what the title block layout is all about.
All right, I'm going to get back and show my ugly face here because we're going to get into it a little bit. So what we're going to do, folks, is have Ken just walk us through. I don't want to call it a presentation. It's a presentation with a conversation. I'll, of course, butt in. But he's going to lead us up to how did we get to 1882 banknotes? Because that's a story that goes back easily 50, 60 years.
And I will start not that far back, but for a historical perspective, I'm going to start with the first charter period of the national bank era.
Okay.
At this
But I
point,
mean,
we've had obsolete banks have been phased out. We have a set of private contractors that the government has hired to print, I should say, to design and print these national banknotes.
so you're talking American Banknote Company, National Banknote Company,
Correct. Whoever they hired.
whoever they hired. It was not the BEP doing everything.
Before, they were just printing the serial numbers and the seals and cutting the notes.
At the Treasury Department.
Yes,
Yep.
that's all they
Okay.
did.
And they weren't even called the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. I think they were called the Currency Bureau when it started. I think
I'm
that's
actually
right.
not sure about that.
Pretty sure. I'll find out. We'll put it on the
Yes,
screen. All right. So get used to this, Ken. I'll interrupt. That's what I
that's
do.
good. So they're chugging along in this the first charter period. And then in 1877, Congress decides to authorize the BEP, or whatever they're called, to actually design and print the notes in their entirety.
Everything.
Everything.
Okay. Did that happen immediately, Ken? Do you know?
It took a while. That's kind of the story of the 1882. I
Okay.
can't tell you exactly when they kept things up because they really just took over the designs from the contractors for the most part.
So 1877 was the legalized congressional authorized saying, hey, we're going to do everything.
Yes.
Okay. It didn't happen at that year, but it was.
But there were other issues. There's 1878 issues and 1880 issues, which I assume they'll start doing things. I
Sure,
haven't
sure.
researched that.
All
But then in
right.
1881, President Garfield gets assassinated, so he's eligible to have his portrait on currency. And the BEP decides that they're going to honor him that way, and they're going to put his portrait on currency. And they decide that they're going to do that on the 1882 $5 national banknote.
Because you have to be dead to be on currency. That,
Yes,
yep. I mean,
yes,
that was, we did the video. I love that video. Because it's just fun to say you have to be dead. I mean, let's be
yes.
honest. That happened, I believe, 1866 is when that legislation was passed because of the fractional banknotes. There was one U.S. representative that got a bee in his bonnet. So, anyways, go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. So in 1882, the second charter period for national banknotes begins. And each of these charter periods required a redesign of the notes.
Okay, now since I mean the charter period, that name, first charter, second charter, third charter, has some connotations to it, which I get that they shouldn't be or shouldn't called, but legally they were a charter period that were mandated by Congress. So it
Yes, that
really
is
is a
the
first charter, second charter.
yes, that's the legalese that was
Yeah.
the framework for all this. And out of that came this series of 1882 national banknotes.
So sir, charter number two is starts with the 1882s.
Correct.
Okay.
So from there, again, we have that $5 brownback that they decided that they're going to put Garfield on. And strangely, all the other denominations, 10 through 100, they just reused the design from the 1875 series. They just put an 1882 or series of 1882 overprint on the notes, but they generally did not touch the design.
By the way, I'm just going to throw in a fast fact here. You know who Garfield beat for the presidency in 1880? Winfield Scott Hancock, the general from the Civil War who's on the 1886 silver certificate. Fast fact.
So they started off this 1882 series, and they started off with a specific one, the patented lettering layout. So that one was default because that's what the 1875s were. They just pretty much carried that over. There was no idea of how many different block title types or layouts they're going to do.
Okay, so let me understand. So you're going back to the 1875 that have the greenbacks, right? They have the beautiful vignette portraits of Gilbert Stuart or whatever, Declaration this, George Washington surrendering that or whatever. Or not surrendering, but he was, I think, giving up his command. Anyways, doesn't matter. So the design on the front, that title block layout stayed the same. The patented lettering, first one out of the chute for 1882, and they just kept the same.
Correct. So
Okay.
that block with the bank title and the block title pretty much carried over. The 1882s at this point, they were deemed inartistic. They were getting a lot of flack from the public about this design. So here they are starting their design for their own for the first time, and they're getting flack about the design. So that's when they decided to start doing alternate designs.
Can you just tell me when to go there? So I'm listening.
Okay, let's go ahead and pull up the first chart. So what you're looking at here is you have the 17 distinct title block layouts listed down on the columns, and then the timeline shows when these notes were, I wouldn't say issued. Well, the dates I went by this were the approval dates
Now, what do
that
you
are
mean by
on
the
the
approval
proofs.
date? What does that mean?
On the proofs, they had to get approved by whatever authority before they issued and printed the notes. The banks had no choice in the type they got. The BEP was the sole authority in figuring out who got what block title layout.
So they'd actually design it, they'd engrave a plate, they'd do a proof, and whoever at the BEP would would approve that. That's when that date's going on there.
Right. So I
Okay.
chose that date. It's on the proofs because that's the clearest indication of when the BEP was actually designing the notes. Not long after the approval, they would put the plates out and they would print the notes.
Obviously, some designs that lasted a long time and looks like barely a blip.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you'll talk about that when we go through them.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that really is the timeline of when the BEP was working on those notes. So it's
Okay.
the line is the earliest and latest approval dates from the proofs for the block
Okay.
title layout.
You want to move on to the our first patented lettering one?
Yes, let's just jump on in. As you can
Going
see, it started at the patented lettering. It was the first type.
So there's 17 different title block layouts, and most of these, with the exception, and it'll be very obvious that they're not Ken's notes. He has collected these notes. This is his collection that you're looking at. Notice that it's a new PMG logo. Ken actually sent out to PMG and had them place on the type of title block layout on the PMG holder, and you can see that in patented lettering up there. That's PMG doing that. That is awesome. Okay, so here we go. Patented lettering. Talk to us about it. I'm gonna just zoom in.
Okay, so this
I
is the
mean,
first
let's
one.
get
The way
big
you tell these apart is the will pay the bearer on demand line.
right in
You
here.
can see it's kind of a rolling text, and each word is capitalized. Well, other than, each main word is capitalized. Now, this type was out for quite a while. And of any of the notes, this is the most varied. These will look very different from one another. The styles are very different, but you have to focus on the will pay the bearer on demand line. That's how you tell
So,
them apart.
and what you say in as far as it all comes down to this for the patented lettering.
Yes.
This can be very different. The National Bank of, the Market National Bank of, all the $5.
$5, there must be, I haven't counted, but I bet you there's 15, 20 different, fonts used for $5 on these.
Fonts and shadowing and drop shadowing, and
Yes.
I mean this is an I mean when I saw this note for the first time, I don't think I recollected any cities being with the engraving and having the Galesh behind it. This is very distinctive. I had not seen that.
It's
Very
very
interesting to
unusual.
me.
There's not many of this layout with that.
Okay, so that's our patented lettering. Anything else you've got on that guy?
I think that's it.
All right, moving on to the next one, recycled original.
Okay, this is interesting because this is the only one you cannot tell what it is by looking at it.
Oh, well,
It
that's super interesting. I'm glad you're collecting it, Ken.
And this is a subset of the patented lettering, actually. So it has the exact same way will pay the bearer on demand text.
So what makes this difference? Different.
What they did here, again, this is my definition because I had a harder time coming up what it would be, but they reused the 1875 design in its entirety, other than the word the. So you have to look at the Smithsonian archives, go back to the 1875 and see if it's identical.
But I'm sorry, what's the difference between this one? Why is this one the recycled? Because it's a recycled original. It's kind of obvious, the name.
Well, because the entire design from Merchants National Bank of Baltimore will pay the bearer on demand $5, Baltimore, Maryland, that's exactly lifted from the 1875.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
But the only way you can tell is looking at the 1875. And for
gotcha.
my definition, it had to be 100% copied or recycled. Because if you look at all these notes, like I have, there are lots of bits and pieces that they're recycled. So what I consider recycled is the entire block in the note is the same.
Interesting. Moving on. So we get to the next one. The
Okay.
Artistic Ultimate. What a name. That's a
Yes. So this is really the response they had from their critics. So this is the first thing that they came out of their own. This is their original design, and this should be pretty common looking to most people. How you tell this apart, it has will pay the bearer on demand in all cap letters.
okay.
And the $5 is the same on all these notes.
Huh.
Now, this layout is basically the most prominent one of all. They use this extensively.
But again, the layout you're really talking about right here, and
Correct.
the National Bank could be different, 4th Street could be different, Philadelphia can be different.
There's a great variety in the bank name layouts. There's probably 20 different distinct layouts of these.
Interesting.
So again, there's a lot of variety in here.
Okay,
Now,
moving
the
on.
series of 1902 is basically this is what they used. So over time, this became more and more predominant of the title block layout that they use. And again, 1902, it's all of this. So it should be fairly common looking.
Okay. All right. The circus poster. One, this is the one that I had at least heard the term before, but man, this is so cool looking. What a
It
great
is.
Patapsco.
Yes, Patapsco.
Nice, nice, weird name from Maryland. I love those
Yeah, the
towns. Names like
Patapsco
that.
River, right? It's right on there.
Yeah.
So they call this circus poster because of the National Bank, right? And that part of the layout looks like what would come on a circus poster of the day. And the will pay the bear on demand is how you tell those apart,
So
right?
here's where they're getting really creative.
Oh, yes.
I mean, they're really getting creative now. It's just funny with the elements like this little tiny element coming up here, right here, but they don't, normally you'd see one reflected on the other, but this is very unique.
Yes. Again,
Very
everyone likes
cool.
the circus posters, as do I.
If you're getting a an 1882 Brownback with circus poster on the five, that's probably going to be a premium on this note for pricing.
Absolutely. They're pretty expensive.
Okay. All right. Want to see the next one? Go on to the next one.
Yes, yes, please.
All right. So this one, ooh. So here's where I'm saying when you see the Smithsonian, so Ken, explain what they're looking at. This is not Ken's note. It's actually a proof.
Yes, this is a proof from the Smithsonian archives that you can get through the Society of Paper Money Collectors. So I love the title of this note. It's the Princess Leia. Because to
Mhm.
me, you see her hair buns that she's famous for. That's what's on this note. And the will pay the bear on demand is unique to these notes. And these are
So
very rare, as some of these are. Only four banks had issued this type of note
ever,
ever.
four
And,
banks.
and two of them are unknown. So these are really tough to find. They were random towns. The BEP just, again, they picked who got these notes and what the layouts were. Again, I have, no idea how they did this.
And it's just so, I mean, it's very, I mean, just the design elements and it is just an artwork within artwork.
Yes,
All right.
it's unique.
All right. So that's the Princess Leia. Moving on to the two-line payment clause. This is really a creatively named one. It sounds exciting, Ken.
And very simple. You look at the will pay, the bearer on demand, and it's on two lines.
Two lines, will pay, the bear on demand.
Yes, and I
Actually,
believe
this
that $5 is also distinctive with that. You'll see that same $5 as some of the other notes, but all of the two-line payments will have that specific
with
$5.
specific font. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, $5. I mean, again, this is a very simple design, but it's very, very
Yes, a
pleasing,
number of
actually.
them are very simple.
Yeah.
When you see them, when you see a whole bunch of them together, they do stand out, right? They're simple and when you look at it, there's something different about it.
So the two-line payment clause. All right, moving on. Script payment. Okay, so I got to define the name here. I mean, people get the terms confused. Script is one thing. Script without a T is
Correct.
related to banknotes. So script is like I read the script to a movie.
Yes.
So this is going to talk about, I'm assuming, the font of this.
Yeah, it's specifically about the will pay the bearer on demand, and you can see it's in script.
It's in script
It's
right
all
there.
small letters and it's straight. If you went back to the patented lettering, they
There was a curve.
capitalized the each word and it was kind of a rolling thing. This was a horizontal straight layout.
Well, wait a minute. By the way, I have never noticed this. There's a little United States of America, little micro printing thing
Yes,
down
there's so
there.
much on these notes, right?
A little
Yes.
Galesh rosette. Holy buckets! I have never noticed that.
Yeah, it's funny. I focus on the title block layouts, and sometimes I kind of miss the other details, right?
I mean, I've picked up. I'm sorry to steal, but I mean, I've picked up on this stuff before. I mean, by the way, the engraving is just. I mean, this is micro printing national currency five. Sorry, I digress. My bad.
Okay, but all interesting, and these tend to be a little bit simplistic layouts as well.
No, I mean, yeah, with note the very little of the lack of the ornate details going on here.
Yes.
I mean, nothing up here, just plain simple. Okay. All right. Moving on to the borrowed early $5.
So the thing is with this, the font for $5, that's I think believe all the 1875 notes had that $5 font.
So they just picked it up and put it down.
Yeah. And you look at it, and it's strange because this came on much later, right? This wasn't an early thing. And they printed these for quite a while. There's a long run of these, even though they're a little more sporadic. There weren't a lot of them, but they seem to randomly pull one of these things out.
I'm just, I sit there and look at these things, and it amazes me. You think of the engravers working on this and doing all the differences and all the different, Waynesville and Ohio and combining. And I know they picked up different plates from here and there and there. Maybe there was 5 plates that made this note. It wasn't they're making in a total one whole note.
Right.
But still, the amount of time and effort, and to engrave this. Now, this could have been, I'm not saying it is, but this little ornamentation here could have been on some other note somewhere else, and they just picked up the plate. I have no idea. But to me,
Yeah.
it's just amazing whoever engraved this. I mean,
Yes.
was able to get in the detail.
And
And Ken,
just while we're at it, my little fun fact again, as they had the plates, each back of these notes was unique because they had the charter number on it.
right,
So there was, I have it down here, there's 2,935 unique brownback $5 proofs. So it gives you 5,870 plates they had to maintain for the $5 brownbacks for 1880.
because if you wanted to reorder your currency, they would pull that plate out of the racks and right and print
Yes,
up your bills.
yes,
You talked to me one time about the Bureau of Engraving trying to impress, right? Saying, "Hey, we belong," or whatever.
yes, yes.
And
Again, to me, that's the momentum behind all of this. Like again, not sure why they went at 17, why they stopped at 17, but they're out to prove their worth.
yeah, and instead of the efficiency of it all, saying everybody gets the same, that's it, done. We'll change the name of the town and the state, etc.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy, but it's crazy in a collector's dream.
Yes.
Okay, we're at the cigar box, another fun one that I had heard of.
Yes. Again, this one always stands out, right? So it has this very dark, heavy font that stands out. And you see the will pay and $5 it has that dip
Oh,
in it, right? So the five these have all that dip in the $5. Again, you can look at these things right off and tell that it's a cigar box.
boy, there's some ink burning on that signature right there, man. That's
Yeah, yes.
wow. Great images. By the way, Ken provided all these images, just outstanding. Thank you for taking the time to do that, by the way.
Yeah, happy to do that.
All right, so then we go from cigar box label number one, because Ken's got it right there for us, and we jump to cigar box label number two, correct?
Yes.
So this one, we're gonna go to the next slide pretty quick on this.
But just
Um,
it's the same heavy font. But you see the $5 is no longer curved.
and
But the will pay to bear on demand is on two lines here. And the main reason for this is all these have, you can see it's the town national bank. The name ends in national bank. So that pretty much dictates a different layout. The banks with ending in national bank are much rarer than, like your First National Bank of Colebrook, whatever you have there. So the cigar box twos are much rarer than cigar box ones.
interesting. All right, so now we want to see these back to back here. So now, folks, you can they are similar, but you really can start to see the differences,
Yeah, that's a nice
especially,
comparison.
yeah, I mean, when you look at the notes, going from here to here, you're like, oh, similarity, similarity, I get it. But you see them back to back, and you really do see the differences between the two uh, title block layouts.
Yes, they
It's
are
still
distinctive.
cool. I mean, is this the exact same font with the National Bank, Ken?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, so that's the comparison to that. Moving on to the circus poster, but this is number three. Is
And
this,
and yeah, oddly, three comes before two. It
I
was
was gonna
like a
say.
week earlier. They're very close.
So I really this one is one of my favorites, to be honest, after looking it through these. I just like how they do the contrast from light to dark on this. It makes it
Yes,
almost look metallic.
yes. So it has the same National Bank font for Circus Poster one, two, and three. All those are the same.
So what is making this circus poster number three, which came out as the before circus poster number two?
So the difference here is in the will pay the bearer on demand. You can see it's what I call shingled. We'll get to that later, but they're curved in different directions.
So shingled meaning one's laying over the other in a way.
Yes, like
Okay.
shingles on a roof.
Not
The
like I got
thing,
shingles around my waist.
yeah,
Sorry for anybody that's got that. That'd be a
yes.
bummer.
And this is, an odd note because this is the only bank that had a Circus Poster 3.
Come on,
Very
one.
tough to find. I think there's four known of this.
When you talk about getting the dates of that proof, I mean, what are we seeing? What is this? It's stamped specimen. That's all it's saying.
So what I have here is I cut out one of the proofs from the sheet of four.
Ah, the whole sheet is going to
Yes.
have the
So if you
proof.
look at the selvage of the sheet on the bottom, there's an approval date and signature, which I,
Gotcha.
again, doesn't show the block title layout, so I didn't add that.
All right. So moving on from Circus Poster 3, we got to see them compared back to back. And this is where I don't. I mean, the going back to Circus Poster 1. I mean, now that I look at this, that well, maybe it's just the lettering. Little Art Deco about 40, 50, 60 years too early on the
Yeah,
Ellicott City. Is that right?
Ellicott City, that is correct. I mean, the main difference, again, you'll see in the will pay the bear on demand line is curved differently. And the Circus Poster 3, in this case, ends in the term National Bank. So that does dictate a slightly different layout.
I mean, this is fascinating to me. All right, we're gonna keep moving. And now we get to Circus Poster number 2, and I can see the difference.
Yeah, so that one's very different than the others, right? Has the same National Bank font and layout, but the rest of it is very different, right? We'll pay $5 to bearer is, again, very different.
I mean, this is I mean, this is very interesting how they put the Fitchburg City in here, where you don't see imbalance like this too often on a
No, you
banknote.
don't.
I mean, with a square side and a round and that and the will pay $5 on demand. It very cool.
Yeah, and this is another one that you don't see these very often. I think only four banks issued this type.
And again, reminder, this is we're seeing obviously with the exception of the proofs, these are Ken's notes, folks. And 13. We're on 13 of 17, folks. So this one is another one that just struck me as very different. Awesome note. I mean, a 40. This is a beautiful banknote.
Yes, it is. Again, that's very attractive. Now, this is a Baroque National Bank of type. So this is the one they actually just highlighted on the National Bank of within the note. And it's Baroque. You can see the letters are kind of pointy.
Right here
Yes.
or here. What do you
National Bank of, the
National
actual
Bank of?
text
Okay.
of National Bank of.
With right there.
Yeah. So otherwise, this would look like a artistic ultimate. But the Baroque, again, the National Bank of is what makes this. And again,
And
I
this,
find these very attractive. This is
I
one of my
mean,
favorites.
they are. And this again, this Attleboro again standing out is so different. I had never seen a city with that type of thing, but I just that's my fascination, folks, of just looking at these. It's that is not what is making this a Baroque national.
Yes. And again, I like these types, and I picked this one up because I just thought the whole thing was very attractive. Again, I like the layouts.
Well, it's a stellar note. All right, so going on to our proof here, Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. All right, so this is two bearer. All right, so why do I care?
So it's the will pay $5 to bearer. It's the well, I think the Circus Poster 2 has the same layout for that. Otherwise, this is the only one. This Jenkintown National Bank is the only two bearer block title layout note.
This might as well be the America's greatest note, top 100 notes, because yeah, you can't complete this ever.
Yes, the
Um,
last I know, there's again per the census, there's one of these.
so you're saying you got a chance, Ken?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. Uh,
very small.
I'm
I've
with
heard there's more than one, but by the census, there's just one.
just, I mean, amazing. All right, elegant, elegant National Bank of.
Yes.
So
So this is like similar to the Baroque in that the text for National Bank of is what makes this. And these elegant, you can kind of see the curls in the A's is
oh right, okay, got it. And the
kind of how you tell
T.
these, right? And again, you see this, it does stand out when you've been looking at a lot of these notes.
So really in the fonts on the F, the little curls coming down
Yes.
here and the B's and the L's.
Yes. The A's are the distinctive part, but yes,
Oh.
there's difference. Like the T has the little curls on it.
Yes. I keep on getting sucked into the clamshell and I mean, they're stunning, just stunning notes, Ken. And it's like, you know,
This is a nice one because this is a relatively common note. Every once in a while you get one.
every once in a while. Okay, moving on. All right, well, this one must be tough to get because looking at the rest of yours,
Yes,
no
this was
offense.
very tough.
I
Same
mean,
thing.
this,
There's only a couple banks that make this. So this is the shingled, right? So you can see, the different curves between National and Union Bank. So
so
this is
again,
one that is unusual because it's a difference in the actual bank title, as opposed to something that I would consider in the common areas between the payment clause or the denomination.
I mean, is this someone just getting creative? Because most of them you see arc center, and this is fairly large. The
Yeah.
national bank, you can see the amount of space that it's taking up. It makes sense. I get the why it's called shingled. I did not know that. I purposely didn't ask the question because, well, I don't really care, Ken. I'll be honest. No, I'm kidding. I did grab a nicer note. No offense, Ken. I'm assuming these are rare.
Yes, very hard to
Yes.
come by.
So I did grab a nicer one from, of course, a larger bank or the same bank actually,
Same bank. Again, there's
same
only
bank.
like four banks, I think, that put these out.
But it's like here's where you can see the note should not move, right? Because I'm a Photoshop genius. Courtesy, thank you, Heritage Auctions. And it was ungraded. Otherwise, I would have kept it on there. But yeah, I mean, you can see really the detail. I mean, I mean, just look at, I mean, it's just amazing. This artistry that's
It
happening
is
inside of these.
the same as the artistic ultimate. Again, some of these got reused in other notes, so slight differences.
We'll move on. The narrow $5, very
Okay.
descriptive.
Yes,
And we're
theoretically, the $5 is narrower than the other ones, and visually, I can't tell that apart.
on
So
that
the way
one.
to tell this one apart is the A in $5. Oddly enough, you see the
So
crossbar slants up,
I'm assuming narrow meaning everything's been squished together.
but it's supposedly narrower. Again, I should take a ruler out and see how much narrower it is. Again, visually to me, it looks about the same.
All right, moving on. And that's it. That was
That
our
is
last
it.
one. So now we're going to we're looking at this chart and what are we gleaning from this?
So these are the rarity of the notes by proof issues. So if I look at the quantity of proofs across all these types, you can see how rare they get. Now, if you look at the artistic ultimate and the patent lettering and the recycled original, I think that's 84% of the brownbacks.
Wow.
So
I mean,
this is when you go out searching, this is what you find. It's hard to find the rest of them. And you can see as these things drop off to pretty much zero at the end, these are all like, one bank, one note. They're very, they're very rare.
well, and this is what makes the collection amazing to me, Ken. In talking to you, I mean, especially the last year or so, I know you've been able to fill your collection with maybe three or four of these. Ken, we'd talk, hey, what'd you pick up this? And he would whip out this note, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Another $5 1882 Brownback.
Oh boy, another brownback.
But I get it. I mean, and this chart really screams, wow, that you've got that narrow five. That's itty bitty.
And the
I can
circus
see,
poster too.
yes.
And then I drop off.
Well, I mean, to have as many, what did you have? 13 or 14 out of the 17?
Yeah, 13.
13. I mean, that is stunning. Ken,
Okay.
thank you for that. That's
I
an
sh
amazing thing.
I should give a shout out because all of my work is based on work that Doug Walcott did. Right. So
Okay.
he has an article out in the Society of Paper Money Collectors, and it's in the encyclopedia. So this is where I started my search from. So most of this, the 17 were defined there, and all these characteristics, great work by Doug Walcott.
Well, that was nice of you, but I'm going to come back to a little bit of that. But what I want to cover first is just, in case folks don't know, I'm going to flip over my banknote here. And what's amazing, again, going to the level that these folks engraved, this stayed constant, the eagle over here on the right side. This is what changed. And I don't have a, I'm getting a bad reflection on that. Let's see if I can. So notice that it's a Minnesota note. So it has a variation. Let me be clear on that. It's a variation of the state seal, and you can see Minnesota guy farming. He's got his gun there, and there is, of course, is a Native American on horseback. So of course he's plowing with a gun in there. And then the motto, state motto, La Toile du Nord, Star of the North State. That's what we are. Minnesota North Stars, Dallas, you suck. You took our hockey team. But that's why they're the Dallas Stars because they were the Minnesota North Stars. But I digress, and I do that quite a bit. So, and then the big blue, I mean, come on. I mean, it's just that teal blue. And when you get a really nice note like that, like I would have loved to seen the back of that 40 that you had, Ken.
Yeah, it's
That's,
nice. Yes.
it's got to be a stunner. So, Ken, part of the conversation that we've had over the time is the amount of research and that you have compiled that and you're crediting Doug Walcott, and I appreciate that. The man, I mean, not many people are going to go down this rabbit hole. But man, you brought, like, I don't know, the biggest bulldozer on earth to go down that rabbit hole with you on your research, particularly in your Excel docs. Could you describe that a little bit to us?
Sure. So it does look like it, but those charts took probably 2 years of research on my part to get to. So I started with Doug Walcott's description. Here's the 17 different types. Then I went to the Society of Paper Money Collectors. They have a spreadsheet of all the national banknotes. I reduced that down to just the 1882 $5 notes. Then I went to town. So I went through the proofs and I attributed every $5 note to its block title type. And in order to get all of that right, I kept having to expand my spreadsheet.
Yep.
So we
Add a
got into
column,
all
add a
approval
line.
dates and charter dates and plate layouts and signature layouts and where the BP logo was because the only way I could check these things was go by and verify every single proof. And it got to be tough because there's duplicates, there's ones they never used, there's some with minute little changes that you would never notice. So I probably have about 20 parameters on every $5 national bank note, all in a spreadsheet, so I can run all kinds of numbers on this. So this is how I generate the charts. It can, nice simple chart, took a lot of work to get to that.
I mean, yeah, a very simply chart. I mean, and that's where I don't think any of this information, again, no offense to Mr. Walcott, was he the one that said, "Oh yeah, there's 17," and
Yes, as far as I know, yes.
so it's his fault that these half the names
He's
are
the one who documented the 17 types, as far
okay.
as I know.
You've told me, and that said at the heart, as a banknote collector, you are a type collector.
Yes,
And this is just, again, going down this narrow $5 1882 brownbacks is that it's different types. They're
yes,
types.
it is. It's quite a rabbit hole for me.
And it's you could, it's kind of, I would say, a similar but yet more artistic. I have the appreciation for this over like signatures, for example.
Right, right.
I think these title block layouts, one, they're just so beautiful, and it's so unique with the BEP doing everything they could and with throwing efficiency out the window, but
Yes.
creating some of arguably the best banknotes that we've ever had. I mean, you could argue that the one thing about the brownbacks is that they took away the vignettes that the 1875s had and the
Yes.
originals.
Yes. Which were quite stunning.
They're stunning. But they put that color on, which is so unique to currency. It is just stunning. And what you've come up with, I think, is amazing, Ken. I think you're crazy in a good way.
The
Uh,
funny part's going to a show and coming to dealer and saying I want to do it by block title layout, and they all look
there-
at me, right? Like here's Colorado, here's Texas. Like no, I need something different than that. They're hard to find this way.
what? What's that?
Yeah,
No, I mean that it is. it's been fun for me to see the last legs of your journey on this and come together and saying, okay, yeah, I got this. And to hear Ken's excitement when he would get this or his chagrin when he had to pay that, like we all do. We
Yes,
celebrate the good and the bad, and sometimes getting a note can be bad, but you get that note in hand, and
and it's
and
worth
there's
it,
nothing
right?
like it, right? There's just
Yes.
nothing like it. You got it. So I've got anything else that you would have to add here?
I can't think of anything. We've gone through this in pretty great detail here.
All right. Well, I really, I appreciate that we've gotten together as friends, as fellow collectors. It is, if you kind of notice, Ken's from Maryland. If you kind of picked up the hint, he's a little bit of Homer on what his note, a lot of his notes are
Well,
from.
not too much. They're hard to find.
It's a tough state. It's
They're hard to
weird.
find.
I mean, you run into, I mean, I say Minnesota's tough, but for as long as Maryland's been around and the population during the time periods, I mean, you run into really tough national
Oh
banknote
yeah.
states that you don't expect. Like Maryland, Minnesota's tough just because of population, but I don't think it's as tough as Maryland, to be honest.
But like, look at these types. There's not many of these types from Maryland, right? It has
Right.
the basic ones. You start getting to the odd things, they didn't make them, right? They are hard.
So, all right, I got to come to close because you know what? I got to point out this just happened today, but if you look over, oh, the other shoulder, you look over that shoulder, you
Got a
should
new
see.
friend.
Let me see which way I'm going to go. What do you think of that? That is, folks, a frickin' polar bear rug that I literally got today for free. And my wife is not going to be happy, but it's not like I'm going to be throwing it out on the living room floor or hanging it from any wall in our house. So that's why he's there. It was a polar bear that was shot up in Canada in 1958, and it's been hanging around my hometown of White Bear Lake. Imagine that. There's the reason of why I'm polar currency. It all ties to that name, and it's frigid as hell up here for most of the days. But I mean, it's I mean, come on. I mean, it seems to be a smaller polar bear, but I just had to talk about that because damn, I
Yeah.
don't that landed in my lap, but
I don't have one of those.
I'd still rather have a polar bear note just to let you know.
Yes.
So there's that. All right. With that, Ken, thank you so much for taking the time and being
Thank you,
here
Dan. This has been
on
fun.
Currency Talks. It really is fun. And thank you for being my currency friend, buddy, and going beyond that.
Well,
So
again, I appreciate our chance to get together.
it is fun. It is fun. We've been planning this for a while. And it Ken made it easy to do this. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. All right, with that, folks, we're going to sign off.